Hi, I'm the Mitten, and you're listening to the Mitten on Knittin. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to episode 12 of the Mitten on Knittin. There's 106 days till Rhinebeck, so let's see what I've been up to. For loose threads this week, first thing, I just want to thank everybody who's listening. We've gotten over 1,000 downloads on iTunes, and that's just, wow, blows me away. Never thought that we'd have 1,000 downloads, and this is only episode 12, so I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Also, this week, I got a new mic. I don't know if it's going to make a great difference or anything, but a new microphone is always a good thing, and hopefully it'll give a better sound quality to the podcast. So that's kind of exciting too. Also, I started up the Instagram feed for those of you who have friended it. It's the Mitten on Knittin on Instagram, and that feeds right into Facebook or Twitter. So if you're not on Instagram, it'll when I post there, it'll push out to Facebook. So either of those are a good way to stay up with the messes that I've made during the course of the week. And for those of you who are already following, I know you have a heads up to what's coming up on dough, and I hope you enjoy it. It was certainly a big one, that's for sure. And as a little hint, I can say that Russian joins, those spit splices, they really hold well. So that's the only teaser I'll be giving you for later on in the episode. So that's it for loose threads. What's fitting the mitten this week? Well, it's been typical New York summer, hazy, hot, and humid. So haven't been wearing the sweater at all. But the Gainsey scarf made it to work with me as a pillow. And as a shawl when I was sitting in the icy cold office. And, of course, wool socks. The cow socks and the Christmas socks, I think, were my two favorite socks this week. They're a little bit finer sock yarn than the German sock yarn. So... but they were quite comfortable, kept my feet nice and cool, and the Christmas socks are pink and yellow and bright and cheery, and they always make me happy when I wear them. So that's what I've been wearing this week, although I was thinking about bringing a pair of gloves to the office. I do have a cold room that I work in where we keep computer equipment that runs hot. So I ended up stuck in there for a couple hours, and I came back to my desk and I was digging around my bag to see if I had accidentally left a pair of fingerless mitts in there, because I certainly could have used them while I was working on the equipment inside of that cold room. But alas, I had not brought them home. I had not brought them with me. They were at home, so I had to settle for just having the scarf on me. So that's what's been fitting me for the week, and there you have it. So what have I been knitting? Well, I've been knitting the Rhinebeck sweater. I finished up the shoulders and sewed them together, and started on the sleeve. And it's got this weird sleeve thing where it does the short rows along the shoulder, and it kind of it picks up the stitches, so it closes off the armhole and comes down kind of like a lid on the armhole, which is sort of weird to me. I haven't made very many sweaters in my lifetime, but I never, they call it a cap sleeve. I've never made a cap sleeve. But I think it's kind of cool the way the construction of it goes, and I think that one thing when I wear sweaters, they tend to slip off my shoulders. I've been that way since a kid. I remember when I was, 5 years old, my mom asking me what the heck I was doing because my sweaters were always, my shoulders were always down to my elbows whenever she put a sweater on me, which was a bit of a problem in northern Michigan because it didn't keep me very warm. But anyway, I think that the cap sleeve shaping is going to make a difference there. Other than the sweater, I've, of course, I was working on the sock of many heels. I had to take Mr. Mitten out and drive him around for the fundraising for the garden tour, which is coming up on Saturday. And so this time I remembered to bring some knitting with me in the truck, and I brought the sock of many heels. So that's what I've been knitting. What have I been spinning this week? I did a little bit of the hip strings buoy beacon, which I've been doing in, I wouldn't say it's a DK weight, a little bit thicker than that, but not a bulky. And it's been coming along. What happened though was, so I go to bed and I spin before I go to sleep, and I wake up in the morning and a spider has built a web on my spinning wheel overnight. Now, this is a daddy long-legged spider, and I really don't like disturbing them in the house. I appreciate them in the house. They take care of all those little tiny bugs that the pups bring in and everything, which in the summertime can be quite annoying. As I've mentioned before, we live in a very old house, and I think it's over 200 years old, and so there's no way we could ever possibly seal up every little leak in every window, wall, floor, ceiling to keep all the bugs out. So I have always since, I guess my mom did it too, but we lived in an old house when I was growing up. I've always made sure to have a daddy longlegs spider in the kitchen and the bathroom, and this one has decided that it wants to be on the spinning wheel, and I've decided to just let it go ahead and be on the spinning wheel. That's fine by me. That's why I have drop spindles. So it's pretty happy. It's caught a few little gnats, and I've been getting a little bit of spinning done on the drop spindle spin for Rhinebeck. So it's all good, and that's what I've been spinning. What's finished this week? Nothing. Finished, right? The Rhinebeck sweater's not done, the socks aren't done, I haven't gotten any new skeins of yarn done, so nothing's finished. In a way, it's kind of weird to keep the section, this segment going, saying, what's finished, like I've actually finished something every week, but I even with the amount of time that I get to put into fiber arts every week, I don't finish something every single week or even every month. And I think when I looked back over the projects that I've done on Ravelry since there's been Ravelry, usually I average about, I think it's around 16 projects a year. So, and then now that I put in spinning the yarn before I actually knit it up, I think that's kind of dropped a little bit, because it is like adding an extra finished object. I think when you have a skein of yarn that you make from either the fleece or roving or top, and you make it into yarn, I think that counts as a finished object in and of itself. So it slows the overall garment process down at the end of the day. But that's the fun of it for me, to go through the process, to be doing the knitting or the spinning or processing the wool. I enjoy it. That's part of the reason why I spend so much of my time actually spinning and knitting, is because I enjoy it. Otherwise, you would hear me talking about things like, I don't know, weeding and taking out the garbage. Two things I really don't enjoy. But I think it's much more fun to talk about spinning and knitting than weeding and taking out the garbage. Anyway, so nothing finished this week, and we'll see what happens for next week. And now a word not from a sponsor. The Hudson Valley Sheep and Wool Company raises Shetland and Icelandic sheep, and right on the farm they have their own mill where all of the fleece are processed. Stop on by, say hey to Mary, Jamie, or Mickey, and don't forget to say hi to the dogs as well. Last Sunday of the month is a sit and spin, so stop on by for some tea, bring your spinning wheel, and have a great time. Hudson Valley Sheep and Wool Company. We'll see them at Rhinebeck. In Stash Up Down, well, I was supposed to have a stash up of a ball of sock yarn that I got, but it didn't arrive at the post office box. I only get my mail once a week on Saturdays, because they won't deliver to our house. They say that we're too close to the post office, even though according to the U.S. Postal Service regulations, we are actually 50 feet not too close to the post office, so they should deliver to our house. But that's a battle we've been fighting for years with the post office, and we haven't won. So anyway, I'm imagining that the post office is holding my skein of sock yarn hostage, and I will hopefully get to pick it up Saturday, which should be quite the feat, because on Saturday it's the garden tour. So how am I supposed to get to the post office as well as man the booth at the garden tour? Do you see what they do to me when they won't deliver to the house? So anyway, no stash up. Oh, and then my friend who raises long hair fine wool sheep, or raised because she sold her flock off, does have maybe a couple of pounds, give or take, of roving for me from Pearl, which is Pearl is such a sweet little sheep, and she's the wool is like 28 microns, and it is this beautiful silvery gray. So hopefully I'll be able to hook up with her and get that. I was supposed to pick it up a month ago, but we keep missing each other. So I have planned stash ups, but nothing really up. But that's what's up with that. Okay. For where I want to be this week, a lot of people went to Black Sheep, and they're taking courses and shopping and having fun, and boy, that sounded like a really good time, and gosh, I wish I could have gotten to go there, and that's kind of where I wanted to be. Aside from it being on the West Coast, I think it's a really fabulous fiber festival. I always hear reports from on Ravelry and in email, and read articles and hear on podcasts how much fun it is. But I'm on the East Coast, which is why Rhinebeck is such a huge deal to me, because it is my fiber festival. So I guess in the way that I look forward to Rhinebeck and have a really great time when I go there, those folks over on the West Coast look forward to Black Sheep and have a really great time when they go there. Although there's also this one, is it Montana? I think there's a fiber festival in Montana that's supposed to be really excellent as well, as far as the quality of hand spinning fleeces that they sell. So, there's great fiber festivals that happen all over, especially the United States, and cruises and everything like that, that are tons of fun to go to. So if they end up in your area, go, have fun. Remember when you go there that there's somebody on the other side of the country, of course, who's totally wants to go, but they're on the other side of the country, so it makes it a little difficult. But maybe one day Black Sheep, just not this year. So for those of you who are there, I hope you're having a really great time. I am looking forward to seeing all of your pictures and hearing all of the stories, especially stories about classes taught by a certain Judith Mackenzie. All hail Judith Mackenzie, hail! For Grabby Paws this week, things I want but not necessarily going to get. I was looking at books. I was looking at Elizabeth Zimmerman books and The Principles of Knitting, always a favorite book that I look at, but for some reason have never bought. I mean, these days it's really easy to go on the internet and look up what you need, and you find it right away, and you can absolutely do, be it a splice or a better way to do a certain technique, from a cast on, cast off, or a sock heel or whatever. It's so simple to go onto the internet and get it, but I think there's still a lot of value in having a book on the shelf that you can sit there and peruse through and come up with ideas for new things that you want to try, or for example, I have a whole bunch of maple leaves that I spun the yarn for, and it was my first yarn that I spun on a wheel, the one that I borrowed from the guild, and I want to join them together to make a scarf someday. But I want to join them in a way that makes that doesn't overshadow the maple leaves themselves, which is what I made out of the hand spun. So, that's something that you would sit there and just look through a book, whereas when you go on the internet to find something, you're really looking for a narrow, specific type of search. You can't Google how to join maple leaves together in a scarf in a way that I would find aesthetically pleasing, because it's really not going to come up with a result that gives you anything that you could possibly use. And some of the results that you get when you Google aren't anything that you would even want to see. Ugh. But anyway, so that's what in Grabby Paws I was looking at books, and I think they're even in this day and age, I think that there's a lot to be said for the printed piece of paper and the printed word in a book. as I do a podcast. Kind of ironic, right? But it's nice to have a good little library around to reference. So that's it for Grabby Paws. In dough this week, I frogged the sweater. Yep, I ripped it all out. It didn't fit. It wasn't gonna fit. I wanted it to fit, but it just wasn't gonna fit. And when I got up to the shoulders and I sewed them together, I tried it on. The length was a little short, but I could have lived with, that style. It still would have fit me and looked good. And it closed, The thing was, there was no ease. It was essentially a skin tight sweater, and personally I prefer a little bit of ease in a sweater. More of a boyfriend style sweater than the kind that fits right up against your skin. So I totally frogged it, and I was thinking about going ahead and washing it and blocking it, because that's what I did with the swatch, and seeing if that made the difference. But here's the thing. It's like I knitted the sweater out of unwashed, unblocked yarn. And then if I wash and I block that yarn's already been washed and blocked. So then if I continue to knit the sweater, then the yarn that I'm bringing in hasn't been washed and blocked once. And so that which has been washed and blocked wouldn't match what has not been washed and blocked. So that would be off, and the whole thing would be wonky and everything. Anyway, after tons of internal debate, I did what I knew I was going to do all along, and that was to rip it out. And when I ripped it out, I had 8 skeins of yarn into that sweater, and I had done those Russian joins. They held. So instead of ending up with 8 little cakes of yarn, I ended up with one huge gigantic cake of yarn, which is actually pretty much the size of a little, cake, like wedding cake topper. So that's what I'm re-knitting from, and it's going along nicely. I've gotten through the ribbing, and I'm up to the bottom section of the sweater, and I'm just gonna really try and look at the sweater as the first go round. Well, actually it was the second go round of the sweater as practice, right? Why not? And when I went back and I started again, I went up 1 needle size, and I also went up 1 size in the pattern. So part of me was debating, just go up a needle size or just go up a size in the pattern. But I think that between going up the needle size plus going up the size in the pattern, it's going to give me the ease that I want on the sweater. That's my hope. Now, if this go around, which is the third go around on the sweater, doesn't work, I'm really not sure what I'm going to do, because I like this sweater, and it's the one I want to wear, but I don't know if it is the one that I will end up wearing. So I'm knitting as quickly and fast as I can on it to finish it up or get it to the point where I know whether or not it's going to actually work, because time is ticking. I mean, it's the end of June. July starts next weekend, this coming weekend. And July, August, September, October, that's Rhinebeck, and sweaters do take a bit of time to make. So I will be focused on getting the sweater done so I can see if I have to rip it out again or go to the store and buy one, because oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do a fourth sweater. But what I suspected all along. And even though you always hear someone say, well, if you don't like it now, you're not going to like it when it's done being knit up. I did like it. I thought it was really nice. It just, and it did fit, just not, it didn't have the ease that I was looking for, which may have, it may have blocked out a little larger. The last sweater that I did in this type of yarn did block out larger. So I think it was worth it to knit it as far as I did. But at the end of the day, it needed to be ripped. So that's what's for this week. Where I'll be this week? Well, this week is the garden tour. So I will be running around our tri-state area, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New York, raising funds with Mr. Mitten, and I'll be out at gardens, seeing if any of the gardens on the tour need a little extra hand or need some more information about being on the tour. And then Friday I'll be at a wine and cheese party, and Saturday I will be at gardens and at the ticket booth and all about gardening and everything garden, and nothing fiber related. But it's only once a year, and I can absolutely do that. Now, on Monday there's a lobster bake, and on Tuesday there's some other kind of party. Anyway, so there's 2 4th of July parties that will be attending, the second of which I can't remember. But the main thing that I'll be dealing with this week and where I'll be is at gardens, around gardens, talking about gardens. It's all about gardens. Our garden, it's been so dry that we didn't really get a good show for our daylilies. We are a historic daylily garden, and a lot of the lilies they simply don't have large enough blooms on them, and a lot of the garden is really dried out because we haven't gotten rain. We're starting to get rain. We got some overnight last night, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more. But because of the nature of our garden, we've decided to pull it off the tour. So the other gardens are more dedicated. Like there's one garden it's a Japanese garden, so it has a lot of trees and shrubs and things like that are species plants and water features. That are koi ponds and the like, which are enjoyable to look at. But our garden really is about the flowers, and we're just not getting them this year, which is not surprising. I mean, last year our garden was really decimated by the winter. This year we didn't get a lot of snow, so we didn't get that cover for the plants. So we also had a bad year this year. Maybe next year. But that's what I'll be doing. I'll be dealing with the gardens, and then next week it's all back to knitting, fiber knitting. That's my plan. I plan to stick to it. In questions for the Mitten this week, we've got a question from Rarely, who writes, Dear Mitten, how does one decide whether or not to try out the competitions at Rhinebeck? Where does one find the information? Is it really worth it? Do I need to chase down a sheep and shear it in order to get the fiber that's good enough? I'm somewhat hesitant to try because I don't want to compete against friends. Am I being overly sensitive? Am I insane to think about trying this at this late date? What's the cutoff for entries? Biting my nails up north? Rarely. Well, rarely. First, please stop biting your nails. You need to go out and get a manicure right away, otherwise your nails are going to catch on your roving and ruin your spinning. So please, 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 don't bite your nails, especially over the Rhinebeck competitions. How one decides is, do you want to do it? Do you want to put the time in to spin 40 yards of fiber? Do you want to put the time in to make an object and have it displayed and judged? The information is on the Sheep and Wool website, sheepandwool.com. It's also on the Rhinebeck thread on Ravelry and on the Facebook group. So you kind of get all the information from all three sites. The sheepandwool.com website has the rules, which tells you how you have to label the pieces and which category the pieces will go into, and you go through the sheepandwool.com website to get the registration. I think they use what's called the blue ribbon system for registration. So you register there, and then what you would do is you would complete your object, then create your index cards for labeling it, and then you can either mail it. I think the cutoff date for mailing is it has to be postmarked by October 1st, but that information is specifically on the Sheep and Wool website. Or what I do is I bring it to the fairgrounds, and it'll be October 14th. They'll be accepting the pieces at the fairgrounds, so you can drop it off in person. So if you're coming, from a distance, and you're coming down Thursday night, you can drop it off on Friday, October 14th. Is it really worth it? I think it is. For me, I've been having my spinning judged there since I started spinning. So it gives me a consistent bar to measure how I'm doing, if I'm improving, if I'm not, and where I need to focus to bring my spinning up to it, up to the standard that they look for. Do you need to chase down a sheep and shear it? No, you don't need to chase down a sheep and shear it. You can purchase, fleece at a local farm or over the internet. There are some places that are known good places to buy sheep, fleece. Well, I guess sheep too. There are some known good places to get fleece, and there are known good places to get roving. And there's a lot of places on Ravelry where you can get recommendations. The one thing I do suggest is that you purchase from a known good source. Get a reference or a recommendation from someone whose judgment in selecting raw or roving, raw fleece or roving that you trust, because some places they just go ahead and try and sell their roving, and it doesn't always work out good for a hand spinner. It may be good for other purposes, but not all fleece is suited for hand spinning. You're not being overly sensitive because you're not competing against friends. You're competing against yourself and how your objects go to the standard. So in pretty much every category, it's just how do you measure up against the standard? And quite frankly, if your friends aren't happy for you, when you get a blue ribbon and they get a white ribbon or no ribbon, are they really your friends? Yeah, I think people who call themselves friends should celebrate when their friends do well. It's not just about being there for comforting when something goes badly, but I think it's they should be able to celebrate when things go well, even if they don't do well. So I hope that kind of makes sense. But don't worry about competing against your friends. You're just competing against yourself. And are you insane to think about at this late date? Well, that depends on how fast you spin or knit. If you can do 40 yards between now and October, then go for it. If you can knit an object, and it doesn't have to be a scarf. The scarf is the featured object. It could be something like mittens. I'm a big fan of mittens, so you could do something like that, or a hat, or a doily, or a bookmark. Anything. Something really small, or something large if you're fast at knitting or crocheting or tatting or weaving. I mean, there's categories from small to blanket size, and there's it's not all knitting. It's any type of fiber arts. What they want to see is they want to see how the fibers can be used, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a clothing. A felted object is like a felted bowl or a pillow or something like that is equally as wonderful to submit. And what it does is it gives people who are going through the Fiber Festival ideas as to how wool can be used, which is really kind of what it's all about. And like I said, the cutoff date for entries is delivering in person on October 14th by noon. So again, go get the manicure so you don't catch your nails on your roving, and don't worry about it. And it's supposed to be fun, unless of course you like to obsess like I do, in which case you can worry all you want, because that's part of the fun. And I hope you do go ahead and submit something for the competitions, because the more stuff that gets submitted, the more fun it is for everybody else to go through and look and see. And I would be very excited to go through the competition section and see your pieces there. So thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. And that's all we got. Thanks for joining us this week. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.